Alright guys, TacticalRab again today. Hope you're all doing well and enjoying your day so far. FormaL has commented on his mentorship of Dashy over the last couple of years and says that at this point, he's pretty much taught Dashy everything he knows and everything he possibly can teach him in terms of getting results in the esports landscape, saying that now it's time for Dashy to take everything he's learned from FormaL over the last couple of years, apply it this season, and finally start to deliver the results expected of his talent. Very much enjoyed your thoughts in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new, as always, I greatly appreciate it. First of all, ranked play. I think I mentioned this date the other day, but yeah, according to Charlie Intel, rumor has it ranked will arrive January the 17th, which, to be fair, for Call of Duty games is actually kind of early compared to what we've been used to for the last few years, you know, February, March, whatever. It's not great. It'd be better if it was shortly after release, but it's not the end of the world. So apparently January the 17th, that's going to be the ranked play launch. I know that lots of people got fed up with pubs, as I did, basically immediately, which is why people have been doing BPL, and I think BPL will certainly still have its place, but ranked will be good to see nonetheless if well, they do a good job, as they've done a pretty good job for the last couple of years compared to what we used to have. I mean, let's say Modern Warfare 2019, there was no ranked. We don't bother with that. We get a CDL playlist, and that's all you get. So thank you, Infinity Ward, at the time. Few comments on actually BPL itself here from Scrappy. Now, as you can see in this tweet, BPL Pro 8, and then we get this one from aBeZy, BPL Pro 8. So making it clear, they're in the Pro side, and they're not in kind of like BPL-C or what anyone can play in. Now, if you guys aren't aware of the story behind this, challenges players, if they're in BPL-C, if they're in the premium tier of BPL-C and they top the rankings every split, will get promoted to the Pro BPL. Now, there's some positives to this, in the sense that you get top challengers players competing with the pros, and therefore there's just more players in there in general, so they can get matches more easily. And also it's a good way for mobility, right? It doesn't just restrict BPL, the Pro tier, to only the 48 pros, because then what if you were a pro, you get benched, and now all of a sudden you get kicked from BPL? Does that make sense? Maybe not. So as a result, top challengers players, if they qualify for it and they actually grind hard enough, in the same way that in, you know, Face It or Rank S or anything like this, it would be pros but also, you know, really talented tier 2 players, something like this. But naturally, you're going to get players that aren't happy with some of the guys they're playing with. You know, this is why Parasite got into that drama a while ago, and Doug got into some of that drama as well, when, you know, the pros don't really want Doug in here, just for various reasons. So Scrappy was not happy here, and I'll play the clip in a few minutes when we talk about the FormaL stuff, with a couple of the players that he was teamed up with. So he gets teamed with Fellow and Shotzzy. So some of the players that got added in, of course, Fellow, long time, you know, pro level player. Shotzzy, I believe, qualified to play in this kind of recently. So yeah, anyway, I'll just read through. He was on a team with Fellow, Shotzzy, and Gwyn, and on the other side it was GodRx, Afro, Drazah, and aBeZy. So Scrappy wasn't happy with the challengers players being in here, which is kind of funny in the sense that it wasn't long ago that Scrappy was a challengers player, and I'm sure that he would have very much been said, oh, you get me in there, I'll fry these guys type thing. But you know, when he's in there, then he's not so happy about it. I think the way that EasyMax handling it is perfectly reasonable and perfectly justifiable, and maybe you could argue that Scrappy was getting annoyed about this primarily because he was kind of getting slammed. I mean, they lost this game in the end. They you know, went down, what was it, 250 to like 128 or something, and then Scrappy basically just rage quits the lobby and says, all right, we'll go next, boys. So yeah, 250 to 120 pretty much. Well, they didn't even get to the end because Scrappy left before the game was over. So definitely interesting, especially when we've seen that so far in this title, Scrappy hasn't been, you know, an absolute dominant force from a slaying perspective as he was last year. It's still early days, but you know, Insight's doing a bit more slaying this year. So yeah, I guess time will only tell, but it's not like Scrapper's looked MVP level form quite as of yet, to be honest. I did see this as well. I don't really know why this was a reply to the tweet, but I thought it was kind of funny that, completely unrelated really, this guy just says Doug dropped 5. So here's another one just to share for you guys quickly. Some scrims, here's Doug dropping 5. And this is the thing with like Doug dropping low amount of kills, is that if he drops low kills and they win, it's like, oh my god, Doug, like what a player, you know, like he's really elevating his teammates. He's doing it all for the win, doing the dirty work. If you drop 5 and you lose, you know, 250, 106, it's like, oh damn, this guy got fried, you know. So that's always the funny thing, that if, let's say this map was 250 to 249 and Doug dropped 5, you'd be like, oh my god, Doug's like, he's the king, you know, he's won this game somehow, dropping no kills. But if you lose 250, 249, then it's like, oh my god, this guy Doug, like, he's trash. And to be fair, JurNii had 9 here as well, so it's not like this is absolutely unheard of, but I thought it was definitely worth mentioning. So we've got to talk about this whole FormaL Dashy thing. We've known ever since they really teamed together back in 2021, OpTic Chicago, and even arguably before then as well. There was definitely this feeling that, okay, FormaL, one of the most talented players ever in esports history, really, but also in terms of Call of Duty perspective, unbelievable shot, but also great leader, great ice, you know, multiple championship winner, world champion in 2017, of course, done it in Halo as well now. The feeling was, okay, Dashy, next up AR, he's going to take over FormaL's legacy in some respect. FormaL steps away, Dashy becomes the new AR for OpTic, the new main AR, and, you know, with a similar level of individual ability and talent and a great shot and all this type of stuff, Dashy will be able to carry that forward and, you know, do what FormaL did for OpTic for the next 5 years, whatever the case might be. For the last few years, that hasn't really worked out as maybe many people expected it to, and there's been lots of talk from FormaL and Dashy about kind of, you know, getting Dashy in the right headspace, grinding as hard as he needs to, recognizing what it takes to be a champion on a consistent level and being as committed as he needs to be if he wants to see serious results. And FormaL's been, wouldn't exactly say drilling this into Dashy over the last few years, but he's been there for Dashy, and, you know, Dashy I'm sure looks up to FormaL in many respects. FormaL has kind of treated Dashy as maybe a bit of like a protege at times, or whatever you want to say, and, well, we now find ourselves in the present day where FormaL apparently has taught Dashy basically everything that he can possibly teach him. Now, FormaL did even mention recently the possibility of returning to play, you know, competitive Call of Duty. He says that never say never, it's not completely out of the realms of possibility, but in all likelihood, it would take a lot of things to go right for FormaL to make this happen. You know, he's what, 29 at this point. The game would have to be great, and also an opportunity would have to arise. Like, FormaL isn't going to go and play for Vegas Legion, right? He's, you know, if he's going to play, he's going to play for OpTic, basically, and I don't think that FormaL would realistically return if Dashy was still there, but, you know, who knows? They played together before, but it didn't really work out so well, and there's been the overarching feeling that if OpTic really don't deliver this season on their expectations, Dashy's position in the team should be under some degree of question. So FormaL comments on this again, and of course people ask him about this all the time in the chat, about his relationship with Dashy, how things are going on, but yeah, the words that FormaL said were kind of interesting. I don't really think, you know, the way that this sounds, if you don't listen to the clip, sounds like, oh my god, FormaL saying that this guy's a lost cause, you know, because when you say I've done what I can, that kind of sounds like, oh, this guy is too far gone, there's nothing I could do anymore, no point even trying, which really isn't what FormaL's saying at all. I know some people interpreted it like that, but I don't really think that's what he's saying at all. He's more so saying, look, I've worked with Dashy for years, I've taught him everything that I know, I've answered all his questions, and now it's kind of on him to deliver.
Yo, whoever's running this shit, man, the BPL, bro, take these fuckers out, man. Take them out, please.
Right, let's get some flow going, bro.
Yeah, let's go.
We need some flow.
We go next, bro. We go next. Good try, boys. Good try. That's such a fucking joke. What am I playing?
You gotta get Dashy Ultra locked this year. I think he's that guy. I've done what I can for Brandon. I can't really do much more. Giving him advice and stuff. If he has questions, I answer, but it's on him, bro. It's his legacy that he's making. And hold his hand, you know. I'm just like gonna be there to be a good friend, not like hold his hand and shit and force him to do shit. It's on him, bro. Got a good ass team. They have a good shot this year.
So it wasn't long ago that FormaL talked about this, right? And the fact that Dashy learned a fair bit from him in terms of, you know, what it takes to win, what it takes to compete at a high level on a consistent basis. Especially nowadays, you know, people definitely look back at the dynasty, and I mean, it happens in every single sport. They always say, oh, you played plumbers, you know what I mean? Like, it happens everywhere. People even say this about Formula 1, they're like, oh, Senna and Prost and these guys. They were driving against like taxi drivers and all this stuff, so it doesn't count. And, you know, it happens in every single sport. You're never going to get away from it. But maybe there's a feeling that today it's more difficult to win than it used to be, and maybe there's some, you know, validity behind that, given the fact that OpTic won so much over so many years. And maybe also the other part of it is the fact that there's just not as many events nowadays, you know. For Dashy to get to like 25 wins like FormaL has, given the fact that FormaL had like 14 events in the Advanced Warfare season, we don't get that anymore. You're lucky, not lucky, of course you earn it, but you know, to win 2 events or even 3 events in a season nowadays is like, oh my god, 3 events in a year, that's like incredibly impressive, which it is. But you know, it's not, it wouldn't be back in the day when there were 14 events in a season. So, you know, that's always one part of the argument. And I'm sure FormaL isn't exactly going to go away, like he's not going to disappear from Dashy's kind of behind the scenes crew, or like not exactly entourage, but if Dashy has a question question for FormaL. If Dashy wants to, discuss something with FormaL, it's not like he's going to say no. But FormaL feels like basically everything that he, has to offer to Dashy, he has imparted on Dashy, and now it's a matter of can Dashy execute on that, right? Because it's been a big question for the last few years, work ethic, all these type of things. And, maybe it's gone too far at times, the narrative, but I think there's a lot of it that's been true. And as FormaL says, now he's got a great team, there really are no more excuses, right? This OpTic team is on paper just unbelievable. And yeah, if Dashy can't deliver the results with this team, then of course questions are going to be there. But he's looking, of course, good so far in this title, and it is a title that suits him particularly well, even as FormaL also said, he's got a good shot in this game so far as well. Over 2/3 of kills, almost 68% of kills in MW3 are MCW kills, so AR kills. So, subs are blessed, subs have the ray gun, and that might be true on some maps. The rival line is good, but yeah, these map and modes, the terminal hardpoint, 89% of kills are coming with the MCW. The other 11% is probably like Hook, because, well, maybe not, but you know what I mean. Hook runs it quite a lot on this map, so, but basically everyone else runs an AR. Some teams just run 4 ARs, at least in the pre-patch version. Invasion, sub-base, high-rise invasion, control hardpoint, stuff like this. So there's plenty of maps that are over 72, 75% MCW kills. So, those are the overall numbers. But I definitely wanted to look at this with regard to Dashy as well. We saw yesterday these kind of, the Money Hill stats put together for KD, but this is the analysis, which is probably more interesting really on hill time. So the way that the teams are splitting up their objective work. You'll see some teams are pretty tightly compact. So again, Atlanta FaZe, Miami, Boston, LA Thieves really, and also Gorillas maybe to some extent. Pretty tightly compact. I mean, okay, it's not crazy, but let's say look at FaZe. Cellium averages like 55 or so seconds per 10 minutes. Simp averages like 75. So that's a pretty tightly compact group really. Other teams have a very different approach. For example, Carolina are getting slammed. They're not getting much hardpoint time at all, but Real has like 85 seconds and everybody else has basically none, which is, yeah, not the best look. And there's a few teams that are like all over the place. So Minnesota are 1, Awakening is averaging 105 seconds, Linz has like 30, and then they're all over the shop really. And the most notable example of this, it's crazy to think how different teams set things up, because they're all trying to win the game at the end of the day. But some teams like OpTic have this approach, and other teams, I mean, like OpTic and FaZe are right next to each other and have markedly different approaches to how they approach hardpoint, which is quite fascinating really. But yeah, the most extreme example is OpTic, because Dashy has the most kill time per 10 in the league at almost 110 seconds per 10 minutes, or per map I guess this actually is. So yeah, that basically means the same thing. And Pred has basically none. Only Scrappy, which is kind of surprising in the league, has less kill time than Pred. But it's quite clear how OpTic are setting up. The Dashy's going to soak up the time, and Kenny's going to get the second most time. Then it's the SMGs. Shotzzy fills in the gaps, and then Pred, they just let him do whatever he wants. And it's not too dissimilar what's going on with Toronto, but it's just different players in those positions. And also because OpTic have won plenty of hardpoints quite emphatically, Dashy's numbers just, hill time look pretty good because he's in the hill more, because they're winning more, basically, is how maybe this ends up going. I didn't really mention Surge either, but they're also very compact as well here. Like, they're 55 to 80 seconds, pretty similar spread really to what FaZe have. It's very interesting stuff. I don't know if FormaL has any comment on this as well to tell Dashy on how he might want to step forward, but yeah, I think this season, especially with all the talk about it, OpTic need at least one event win. Obviously, they want to win the World Championship. I think that, if they don't win an event, even if they, if they win an event and they make the grand finals of champs, I think that's probably, you could consider that a successful season for OpTic. Anything less than that is probably a failure. So very much interested in your thoughts in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new. Take care, and I'll see you next time.